And it goes back to trade, it goes back to investment, it goes back to industry. Moving your goods from the farm to the industry to the market. If the roads are not there, it will be so expensive and it will make our lives a lot easier. That is why this ministry is tied at the waist with so many ministries. And I hope that investors are watching to know that we are prepared and we are working hard to change the business environment. Mike has demonstrated that with his presentation. Just to remind you of what the vision of the ministry is to promote economic growth, job creation, generate wealth. We have four main mandates: creating an enabling environment to stimulate domestic and foreign investments into all sectors of the Nigerian economy, to facilitate trade in goods and services, and maximize the benefits of international trade through functional bilateral, multilateral trade relationships with other countries, to accelerate growth of industrial sector, enhancing productivity, and finally, fostering the development of micro, small, and medium enterprises, the drivers of any economy and the Nigerian economy. Today, we have about 16 agencies reporting to the ministry. We have Bank of Industry, Oil and Gas Retail Zone, NEPSA, SAN, ITL, SMIDAM, NEPC. Those are in areas of industrial enablers. And then you have the trade-related ones like NEPC, Commodity Exchange, the Lagos International Trade Fair, TBS. And on investments, we have NIPC here, Corporate Affairs, Consumer Protection, Financial Governance, Financial Reporting Council. And on sectorial drivers, we have the Sugar and the Automotive Council. Today, I will be presenting the achievements of the MITI team. So whatever I present today is not down to Segun Aganga, it's down to the team MITI. We are together and we have worked hard to achieve this. I just present it on your behalf. In terms of where we are, manufacturing and trade contributes at least 27% to our GDP. MSME actually accounts for 46% of our GDP. And industries account for 25.9% of our GDP. That tells you how the ministry and its agencies contribute to the economy of this country and are important to the economy of this country. The next slide tells you, let's take the first one, industrial development. Where were we in 2011? In 2011, when we took over, there was no coordinated and comprehensive industrial plan for this country. There was no strategy to diversify our economy and revenue sources. The manufacturing contribution to GDP was very, very low, less than 4% of GDP. Capacity utilization was very low. They were losing jobs all around the place. And I see some industrialists nodding over there because they can remember what was the situation in 2011. There was no emphasis on value addition. For decades as a country, we specialized in exporting raw materials, and we thought we were a rich nation. There was no emphasis on value addition. We had weak industrial structures, and completely we were dependent on importing our food. We were dependent on importing everything because all we did was export raw materials. That was the situation in 2011. The next slide tells you why it's so important when you talk about the economic diversification. For decades and decades, every government until this government of President Goodluck Jonathan relied on one commodity, oil. There was no plan to take us forward. Today, you see the oil price today is down. I think Goldman Sachs is saying it will be down to $80 per barrel. When you look at it, and of course, a lot of people are discovering oil. Shale oil in America and all that. That has changed the trading relationship between Nigeria and United States, for example. For decades, they used to be number one trading partner. Today, United States is about number 12, number 14. No longer as important in terms of trade to Nigeria because all we did was trade oil with them for decades and decades and decades. And of course, that was the situation. So the idea is that we must diversify. And what is the answer to that diversification? That is why we came up immediately with the True Industrial Revolution Plan that was launched by Mr. President in February last year. That is the first game changer that this ministry brought to bear to this country. What is the Industrial Revolution Plan? We are taking it from the cue that no nation has managed to move from being a poor nation to a rich nation by relying entirely on exporting raw materials without a strong industrial and services sector. That was what we did for decades in this country. And this is saying we can no longer and we will no longer do that. We have to start on a new path of value addition. We want to play in areas where we have competitive and comparative advantage. Where Nigeria can be number one in Africa, a top 10 player globally. We want to look across the value chain. So when I use automobile, for example, it's not about car assembly that we had 30, 40 years ago. It's about the value chain. Yes, I want to assemble cars, but I want to produce the local content as well, the parts, there are 2,000 parts. I can because I am Nigeria. And what I mean, integrated with other development programs in this country. It is different because for the first time in this country, we are not looking at industrialization in isolation. We are looking at what will make us competitive as a nation. That was why we focus on 7 enablers. Access to affordable finance, industrial skills, infrastructure. Mike has talked a bit about some of that in works. Standards. We must meet with international standards. We must link innovation to industries. We must develop and improve the business environment. We must focus, we must produce what we consume and consume what we produce. Those are some of the factors that will make us competitive. And of course, in terms of sectors, of course, we are talking about sustainable and inclusive industrial development, which means that we're looking at labor-intensive sectors as well. And that is why we have defined the areas. And of course, we have competitive advantage in agriculture because we have 84 million hectares of land where almost everything can grow. Therefore, I want to go from the farm, not to the market straight away. I want to go from farm to industry, which means processing. That is why we are emphasizing food processing. That is why we're emphasizing cocoa development. That's why we're emphasizing sugarcane to sugar. That's why we're emphasizing textile, cotton, and garments. And by the way, we are fashionable people as Nigerians. It's, apart from enterprise in our DNA, fashion is in our DNA. And we have the cotton, we have all that. We can go from cotton to garments to fashion design. We have 44 solid minerals in commercial quantity. It's useless saying we have 44 solid minerals in commercial quantity if we don't take them out of the ground and use them. Therefore, I want to go from iron ore, as I say, to pellets, to flash sheets, cold rolling mill, hot rolling mill, and of course to flash sheets. We want to use our coal to generate electricity. So we need to do the value addition to our solid minerals. I want to go from bauxite to aluminium, for example. And of course, oil and gas is useless telling me that we're the 8th largest producer of crude oil. It means nothing to me. What matters to me is what we do with the oil. That is what the Industrial Revolution Plan solves today. We have changed the paradigm from a country that would export its crude oil to a country that wants to sell its crude oil to a Nigerian investor investing in integrated petrochemical plant. And I'll come back to that later about how that works. We want to support our housing development. We're a country that has 16 million deficit in terms of housing. We import, apart from cement, most other things we import, when actually we should be producing them in this country. We want to move in that direction. We want to create jobs, we want to create wealth, and that's how we're going to diversify the economy. What's unique about the Industrial Revolution Plan is that it doesn't stand on its own. I often tell my colleagues in council that I'm one of the most privileged ministers because I'm tied at the waist with all of them. I'm tied at the waist with the Minister of Agriculture. Therefore, the NRP is linked to the Agri-Transformation Agenda. I need the raw material from the Minister of Agriculture. I'm tired of the way